Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge and welcome to a very interesting little book that came about, okay? This came about a video that came about from our live show on Tuesday. It's funny, some of the best things that happen to me in Booktube come around from the weekly read-along. So if you don't know about this, every Tuesday, it's usually from 7:30 to 8:30 my time, or else it's from, it's 6:30 to 7:30 my time, Central Time. We do a read-along on one of the romance booktuber takeover channels. So we literally just sit and read for 40 minutes and then we chat about it and things come up. And one of the things that came up is like giving book recommendations based on where the people have sex at. So I said I would do it. So I put up on my community tab and I just asked people to give me books where they do it, fill in the blank. So I have, I think I have about like 8 or 9 different places, and then I have a few recommendations for some. So if there's any of these that you have more recommendations from, because obviously it's hard to look some of these up, and I can't remember every sex scene from 1,000 books that I've read in the last 2 years. So these are gonna be books mostly from either this year or else they had really memorable sex scenes for me, so I was able to remember where it was. So for any of these that I'm about to mention, if you have more, please put them down below. But I just thought this could be a fun if you wanna get some like crazy book recommendations based on where the people have sex, because that can be fun. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one was place where they have sex on a yacht. So one that I just read recently was Lap of Luxury by Brianna Hale. So this is actually a captor-captive romance. It has some violence. It has a little bit of mob activity in it. This is actually the second book to Come to Daddy, and you're supposed to have read Come to Daddy first. I think you'd be okay if you didn't, because all of the stuff that's pertinent to this story is in this story, but you do meet the characters previously. But this is also an age gap. This is about a girl who's an assistant for a person, and then that person is the guy from Come to Daddy, and he runs away from his brother, who has like, they have mob connections and like big business stuff. And so she gets kidnapped by this brother, and he takes her to his yacht to keep her kind of as bait, but also because he knows that she has some kinky tendencies that match his own, and he wants to explore that with her. Their dynamic, besides him having kidnapped her, but also within their sexual dynamic, there's some CNC, consensual non-consent. There is some like breath play, and she really enjoys watching him commit violence. And it's just, it was a bananas story, and I loved it. And they're on a yacht the whole time, so there's lots of banging on the yacht. Next was In the Shower. The person who left this comment said that she doesn't see people do it in the shower a lot. And I mean, most books that I read, they do. So maybe you haven't been reading the books where it happens. I'm only putting one recommendation in for this because it had one of the funnest shower scenes I've seen. But honestly, the last like 10 books I've read, like I'm reading the Crossfire series, they do it in the shower all the time. I feel like a lot of contemporary ones do. I think that shower scenes are the most like over-exaggerated sex scenes in books, because in the shower it's like not as fun as they make it sound, unless you're a billionaire, which most of them are, and you like have a walk-in shower like 365 or something. But I put A Worthy Opponent by Katie Robert because there is a sex scene in this book between Tink, Hook, and Gaten that's in his shower, and it's amazing. So I decided to put that one in here. Also, the way Hook's bathroom or like room is set up is that the shower is like, it's like a whole glass wall, so you can like see into the shower from the bedroom. There's like a clear wall to the shower, and so he's like watching, and it's great. It's great. I love it. In a Cabin. So I have two for this one. I have In Bed with Mr. Wrong, which is also a Katie Robert. But the reason I picked this one is that this is a hate to love. This is between a soldier who's home on leave and his like brother's girlfriend's friend, and like they get set up on a blind date, and she's heard a lot of things about him around town, and he assumes that she's only heard bad things, but she's actually heard really great things, and so she's intimidated to go on a date with him, and he takes her being nervous as like judging him, and so they both get off to a bad start, but they have this crazy sexual tension, and like, oh my gosh, a sex scene from this book also fits for one of the other ones I'm about to say, but they have amazing. But the one where it's a cabin is that their friends trick them both into meeting at a cabin in the woods. Like, he's there waiting for his brother to get there, and then she gets sent there to like pick him up or something, and their friends take their cars, lock them in this cabin. They've hidden condoms over the entire cabin. They have them like in a bowl on the counter. They have them like in the couch cushions. They put them in the fridge, and like like they literally hid condoms everywhere. In the wood pile, there's like some, and they leave them there for the weekend. And there's like it's not a snowstorm, but it like snows, and they like trap them there. And it's delightful. Then I thought I'd throw this in there just to mess with people because some of you will be mad. The Wild by Kay Webster. This is a taboo age gap, considered incest. A dad and a daughter are in the wilderness, and they like build their own cabin, and they are doing it in that cabin. Read that recently. In a Cave. So this one I thought I didn't have a rec for it, and then I remembered one with a cave scene. And that is actually A Night to Surrender by Tessa Dare. So this is this is the first in the Spindle Cove series. And so this book actually has a wounded hero whose name is Victor. And there's this woman named Susanna who kind of like runs Spindle Cove in a way. It's a place where women who like don't fit into society can go to like relax and like gain confidence and heal. And Susanna does a lot of like holistic healing and things. And so to help Victor with a leg injury he has, there's this cave that is like partially underwater sometimes. And she takes him in there to do like walking exercises for his leg. And then like as a reward, like if he does a certain amount of laps, he can do stuff with her. So I picked this one as a cave because it's like partially one. So that's as close as I could get to. Also in The Wild, there's some cave action as well. Then in the forest. So I know that there are a lot of forest scenes in IAD because Lachlan is a Lycae, and the Lycae, how they claim their mate is the first full moon. Once they find their mate, they literally like have sex all night long, and then like the claiming snaps into place and stuff like that. The woman has to accept it as well, but the first night they end up doing it in the forest like all night long because yeah, he like chases her into the forest. She wants to be chased into the forest, by the way. This isn't a non-consent thing, but they do it in the forest a lot. Also, I was remembering Neilani Singh. I just read Branded by Fire. So these are also like wolf and leopard changelings, and a wolf and a leopard. The first chapter of the book has a sex scene in the forest. And it's amazing. But in this entire series, if you like things happening in a forest, you should check out the Side Changeling series because there's lots of cats and wolves, and they do it in the woods a lot. Like there's probably a scene in the woods. Not in the first and second book, but from the third book on, there's probably a scene in the woods in every one of them. And then also, this one I haven't talked about in a while, The Shrike in the Shadows by Chantal Cowdrey and A.M. Wright. This book is a Hansel and Gretel retelling where there's a witch who keeps stealing men and then taking their hearts out and killing them. And Gretel, they're going by different names. Hans and Greta is what they're going by. She is like accused of being this witch, and so her and her brother have to like run into the woods where they meet a man who has magic about it, and him and Greta get it on in the woods at one point, and it's really good. This book is good. It's not heavily romance in the first half, but this is very sexy. It's dark. There's a lot of people believing that Greta and Hans are having an incestuous relationship. That is not happening. It's just, it has that taboo vibe because everyone's saying that about them, and they're the only thing each other has. And in this book, like, it's never turning into something more. But Hans is a ladies' man, so he's sleeping around, and he uses his sister as a reason why he can't get married. So a lot of the women in town blame Greta for why Hans won't commit to them. So Hans is kind of a douche canoe in this sometimes because there are all these rumors going around about his sister, and he doesn't help because he kind of perpetuates it by saying that he can't be with them because he can't leave his sister. But this is a really great book. It's the first in like the Witch of Crumb series, it's called. And I really want there to be more books in this series, and I haven't been able to find any news about it yet, but it is so good. It's so good. I really love this book. Then we had In a Carriage. So I have quite a few recommendations for In a Carriage because In a Carriage is kind of the equivalent of In a Car, which we're going to get to In a Car. Somebody sent me In a Car, and I was like, this is the same as like In a Shower. What contemporary romances have you been reading that they haven't been doing it in a car? But I'm not judging. I'm giving the recommendations. It's fine. I've just laughed at, what some people are looking for is I'm like, you ain't getting that? Let me find you some. All right. Anyway, not ranting. Okay, so I recently just read A Week to Be Wicked by Tessa Dare. So this couple, this is the second book in Spindle Cove, actually. And she is she's not a paleontologist, but she's very interested in fossils, and she needs to get to this convention. And so she convinces Colin to run away with her and pretend that they're going to elope, so that she can get to this conference. And so there's lots of time in the carriage, and it's one of them where there is only one bed. And it's actually really cute because Colin, he's considered a ladies' man because he has problems sleeping. And so he needs to like sleep by someone. And so part of his stipulation is he's like, if we're traveling together pretending to elope, like, I need to share a room with you and I need to sleep beside you. Otherwise, like, I don't get any sleep at night. So a lot of his, like, reputation is he is sleeping with women, but a lot of times he will, like, pleasure them and then just sleep by them because he needs someone to sleep by. And I like that. But there is some time in a carriage in this one. And then Suddenly You by Lisa Kleypas. This has a really fun carriage scene. I love this book. This is about a writer. Her name is Amanda. And for her 30th birthday, she wants a male escort to come and pop her cherry. And she ends up being like, the man who gets sent to her house isn't an escort, but she assumes that it is. And so he doesn't sleep with her, but he does gets her jollies off for her. And then she runs into him the next time and finds out that he's an editor of one of the most prestigious printing companies, publishers, where they are. And he wants to buy some of her works. And they begin a affair together. And it's so good. This is one of her standalones, but all of her world is kind of connected together. So I loved this. I loved Jack and Amanda. And then I just read Lady Be Bad by Megan Frampton. This one has a great scene in a carriage, like so good. This one is Lady Eleanor needs to marry Lord Alexander's older brother, to save her reputation, and his family needs the money. And his brother doesn't have time to woo her, and she won't agree to marry him until she has experienced a few things in life. So he hands it off to his brother Alex, and Alex agrees to help woo her. And of course, we know how that's going to go. So there's 3 for In a Carriage, but those do happen a lot in historical romances. Then we have In a Car. And so I'm going to give you a couple unconventional ones for this because I think that In a Car is pretty popular, but I have some unconventional ones. So the first one I just read is Love Unexpected by Q.B. Tyler. This is an age gap. This is a stepfather romance. Oh, this one was so good. So good. I love stepdaughter ones are just so good. But they do it in a car outside a nightclub. And I really like it because when they're done, she's like, they have to pick someone up. He's like, he's totally going to smell that we've had sex in here. And he's like, no, he won't. He's going to be super drunk. And sure enough, he was like super drunk, the guy they pick up. But then the next day he's like, it smelled really weird in there. What was going on? Then I also have Begging for It by Lila Pace. So it's so funny too. You know how like, well, maybe you don't, but like my taboo reading journey is so interesting because things that I thought were just so taboo, to find out that there's so many books that have that taboo in them is just interesting to me. But this one's interesting too because it was written in 2015, and I feel like this trope wasn't done as much back then. So this is about a girl named Vivian, and they're doing scenarios of captivity and force. And so Jonah ends up finding out about her kink accidentally. He overhears a conversation with her and her friend, and he is interested in it from the other side of it. And they both have some traumas. So she has been raped before, and the only way she's able to find pleasure now is if through like having scenarios of rape and capture happen to her. And Jonah, he watched his mother be traumatized, and now he likes to perpetrate that by being in control of the situation that's happening. I know that sounds weird. The psychology of it is explained much better in the series, and they're just, this couple is so amazing. And so one of their scenarios, because to me that was the fun, is like watching this couple fall for each other, as well as all the different types of captor, captive, force, coercion, how they happen. And one of them is she has a flat tire and he is there to help her, and they have sex in her car. And it's good. It's really good. All right, In a Barn. So this one, again, I know there's probably a bunch for this one. I'm just throwing up one that I just recently read, so feel free to put more down below if you find them. But I just read Catching the Cowboy by Kennedy Fox. This is really cute because this one is a friends to lovers. It's really like best friend's sister, and they were also childhood friends, but kind of enemies because he picked on her a lot, but it's because he loved her. And not in the way of like, oh, that boy's picking on you, he might like you. He always said that he liked her, and just no one took him seriously. And now when they finally have a chance to be together, he's like, I've been telling you I liked you for 10 years. You just weren't listening to me. And I love it. I love it. But they work on a ranch, and they definitely get it on in the barn a few times. I also just read Breaking Her In by Brianna Hale. I didn't have that on my list, but he runs the stables, and she comes to like ride her horse there, and she rides a couple other thing or another thing when she's there too. It's good. On a Park Bench. So this one, I think I found one that fits. I didn't go through to recheck the sex scene, but I know that if they don't have full penetrative sex, that he is getting her off on the park bench. And that's actually in One Night Is Never Enough by Anne Mallory, which is a really good book. It's about this girl that her father basically trades a night with her to forgive his debts. Although the guy who won it he spends a night with her, but they just play chess. And it's just enough to get her where she was so offended that her father had traded her to this guy. But then she's actually with him and she wants him to do it so that it isn't her choice. You know, because if he were to like force her to be with him, then she didn't make the choice. And he's like, that's not how this is going to go. Once we get to the point where we do something, it's going to be because you fully consented to it. And I love that. I love that he won't let her get away with, well, I had to. He's like, nope, you spent your night with me. You've paid for what you did. But if we want more to be going on, you're going to want it. I'm not going to take it. And that gives me the tingles all over. And there's a scene where they go to a party and they end up walking through the gardens. And I think that it's on a park bench. So I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I know for sure they do stuff on the park bench. I just can't remember if they go all the way. So that's one that popped into my mind. And then the last one was On a Motorbike. And I actually have two for that. So the first one is Hot House Flower by Kristen Becca Ritchie. Oh my gosh. I just ordered a copy of this book and I'm so excited to get it. The paperbacks of this series are so expensive. Oh, they're like hard to find. And so I found one at a thrift store and I'm really excited for it. But this is Reich and Daisy. This is an age gap. This is the second book in the Calloway Sisters Addicted series. And Daisy and Reich have had sexual tension for a long time, but she was underage and he's like, nothing is going to happen. Well, now she's not underage anymore. And they end up going on a road trip on his bike and they do it on his bike and it's great. And then the other one is so good, and that is Him by L.L. Ash. And this is an age gap. This is a best friend's dad romance. And this is about Blake and Bay, and she moves with her best friend to live with her best friend's dad, who has been divorced from her friend's mother for a really long time, and he wants to spend more time with his daughter. And then the daughter ends up joining a sorority and leaves Bay living alone with Blake, and they quickly have some experiences together. And later on in the series, they go on a date on his bike, which she's been wanting to do. And then they go to this place and he's like, half the reason I have a bike is I've always wanted to have ladies on my bike with me. And they have sex on his bike and it's great. So, okay. So those are all of the prompts that got put in the comment. And I hope that you thought this was a fun video. It was just such a fun whim. We'll see how it goes. If you have any more suggestions for any of the prompts that I got up, please put those down below so that this can be a recommendation video for everybody. Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for watching this video. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye.